Okay, today I'm going to answer a couple of questions that I got. I a couple videos ago asked for questions for videos, and then got a bunch of questions and didn't answer those ones, but started answering other ones. So I'm going to answer the ones that I actually got in the comment section from those videos. And a couple of them were about one was about lower level movement, and it was like, how can you determine or discern if it's like just normal living versus like compulsive lower level movement stuff? And that's a hard one, right? Because like we can't just like stop taking showers in recovery. We can't stop going grocery shopping. We can't not cook meals. We can't, like if you're a student, you kind of still have to go to school, and oftentimes that's a campus where you have to walk from class to class. All these things, right? That it's like, well, what's the difference between like normal living and lower level movement? And the short, quick answer to that is, if it causes you anxiety to not do, then it's lower level movement. It's compulsive. So normal living, going to the grocery store, and I've talked about this before, I'd go up and down every single aisle. That's not normal grocery shopping. That's what normal people don't do that. They just have a list, or they know what they need and they go to there and there and there. I would go up and down the pet food aisle when I was in my disorder, when we didn't have any pets, every single time I went to the store. That's weird. That's compulsive, and that is lower level movement. Same thing with like when I would do the laundry. Before, I would take like these small stacks and I'd take it to the room, and then I'd take this one to the room. And now I'm like, get as big a stack as I can to shove it in the drawers. I don't want to take that many trips. Let's see some other examples. The mailbox. Like I used to walk up to the mailbox. I would oftentimes go right when it was like questionable if the mail had come or not, because then I had a chance of going back again if it hadn't come. That's compulsive. You know inside of your mind, if these thoughts are, I'm trying to burn excess calories, I'm trying to move my body because I feel anxious about sitting down, versus like, let's just try to save time and be efficient. And I'll now what I do, I pick up my kids from school and I stop by the mailbox on the way home. I drive. I used to walk obsessively to pick my kids up from school, and now I just don't want to. Like there's no reason for me to, especially in the winter when it's cold in Utah. I just drive. It's faster, and then I stop by the mailbox, grab the mail, and come home. So it's like these kinds of things. I'm living normal, right? But I'm not doing these things in a compulsive way that nobody else would ever know about. And that's where it's so tricky, because with compulsive movement, like going to the gym every day, obviously when you're in recovery and you're trying to recover and overcome these compulsions, obviously going to the gym every day is really, it's blatant that you're not, committed to recovery. However, me going grocery shopping when I'm in recovery, no one knows if I'm going up and down every aisle. So that's something that you have to be so honest with yourself, and you have to check yourself and ask yourself before you do these things. Am I trying to move more than I need to? And then the other question following that one was, well, how did you just sit in your house all day? Did you just sit on the couch and do nothing all day? Like, what did you do in your recovery? And the answer is actually yes. So I switched my mindset to, for 20 years, thinking, what can I do to move the most? I can park at the furthest parking spot. I can never take the elevator, always take the stairs. I always had these thoughts. And then when I started recovery, I thought, what is the exact opposite of that? I will find the closest. I'm one that will actually kind of circle around to wait for a car to come out that's closer to the doors than furthest. I will take the elevators when that's available or offered. I will look for ways, especially my recovery, I was so diligent about, like, because I had to intentionally make sure I was doing these things. Now it's just naturally, I don't think that way anymore. But in recovery, I had to think like, what's the opposite of trying to move as much? It's sitting as much. So I go to the store and go in exactly what I need to get. And I did find that initially at the beginning, sitting was so uncomfortable, like physically uncomfortable. Like my back would ache and kind of spasm. My legs felt restless. I just felt awful and groggy and really tired. And I thought, this is just not for me. Like, I'm just not a sitter. I've never been a sitter, and I just don't like sitting. Well, luckily I stayed committed to this this process and thought, no, I really need to be okay. I want to be that person that's okay to sit in a movie for 2 hours. I want to be able to go on a road trip, a 10-hour drive and not have panic attacks and feel like I have to like run around the gas station every time we stopped. That's weird and dumb, and it's obsessive, and it's an eating disorder. And so it was those things that I had to retrain myself to be okay with. Probably took a few months before I started really settling into like enjoying myself on the couch and really not feeling that anxiety. What did I do while I was sitting? I would journal write. I would read. I tried to make sure, and this is a point that I tell my clients, like, it's fine to read recovery books and things like that that are encouraging and give you direction. But also it's really important to like use the other part of your brain that's not so always about eating disorders. Like go read a really cool fiction book or get into a really exciting Netflix series that you like. That's not just YouTube videos, reading recovery books. Always, even if it's like good, positive things, it's good to have other things that you're starting to entertain your mind with. So when I sat, those are the kinds of things I do. I'd sit instead of pacing or walking up and down my sidewalk when I talk to friends or my sisters, I would sit on my butt and talk to them. So another way that you can ask yourself, lower level movement, how can I get rid of that? And did that give me anxiety initially? Yeah, totally it did. And it should. I mean, you're breaking a compulsion you've had for however long, I don't know. But it's going to feel uncomfortable and doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. The other question was, well, in treatment centers, I've been told that walking is good for your anxiety and then it clears your mind. And a lot of times it helps with digestion. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I was told the same thing. And guess what? I never recovered. So clearly that's not a way to overcome compulsive movement, right? It's just not. Like, let's try something different. It doesn't work. And so, that's why I knew when I started recovery, I had to commit to like truly commit to not doing those things that would ease my anxiety or help with my digestion after I ate. Guess what? Just sitting is just fine. You'll digest your food just fine. So that was that question. And then the other one was, and I'll just touch on this briefly because this video is getting long and this question could take 20 minutes to answer, but how do I stop the binge, restrict, repeat? Binge, purge, restrict, repeat. Binge, purge, restrict, repeat. There we go. How do I stop that vicious cycle? And there's really two words to that question. The answer is unrestricted eating. So if you're eating unrestrictedly, you're not purging, you're not restricting, you may be binging though. Binging is one of those things that unrestricted eating might look like. We call it feast eating just because binge has such like a negative, I'm doing something wrong, or is this emotional eating, or what is this? But feast eating is super logical, right? You're coming out of a famine. So what follows a famine is a feast. So it's not, typically people prefer to hear that over I'm a binge eater or I'm binging. So I try to correct my clients when they're using that terminology, just like you're really just feast eating. You're just eating a lot because you've been restricting for a long time. And that is how you do it. But then, and I know you know that logically, you're like, but how do you do that? You do that by waking up and eating breakfast and then eating again whenever you want to eat, and then eating lunch and then eating again, and not giving yourself the option to purge and not giving yourself the option to then compensate and restrict later. And that's how you break that. So I know super simple answer is something that's very hard, but it's really not complicated at all. And I know you want a different answer and you want some other like magical tips that will help you to be able to do that, but it really just comes down to you being really strong, really bold, really committed, and saying, I'm doing this and I'm not making up any more excuses as to why I can't. Because it's hard, that's not an excuse. Because I'm busy, not an excuse. I can't afford it, not an excuse. You can find really very unaffordable food that will allow you to eat lots and lots to recover. So be honest with yourself with the lower level movement and how you break this vicious cycle of binge, purge, restrict, repeat is exactly that. You have to have accountability. You have to ask yourself, only you really know if this is being driven from an eating disorder or not. And if you don't, you really are just so sick and have had it for so long and you really don't know, that's where you would need to hire a coach and have them help you walk you through that process of what that is, and kind of helping you to become more honest and aware of how strong the eating disorder is in your life. So those are just a couple questions I wanted to answer today, and I'll be better about getting to the rest.